First up, watching the unfolding joint military action of the United States and Israel as they work toward neutering Iran's military capability with a sustained air war, you can't help but look at the political leadership of especially the United States, but also Israel, and ask yourself one simple question. Who are the Australian equivalents of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, their War Secretary Pete Hegseth, and of course Donald Trump himself? Now, I mentioned yesterday our basic national preparedness to defend ourselves is a disgrace, and to be self-sufficient in the basics like fuel, for God's sake, on both counts we are failing dreadfully. But there appears zero leadership on even that basic issue of establishing the refining of crude oil into diesel and petrol in Australia. Now, by contrast, the Americans under Trump made self-reliance a priority during the Trump campaign, with his famous drill baby drill mantra. Here we have endless arguments about even lifting a useless nuclear energy ban. I mean, listen to fools like the Greens saying we should ban all coal and gas mining, export all the uranium we dig out of the ground to other countries, and flog off our gas reserves at ridiculously cheap prices. We're a nation blessed with energy assets, but we tie ourselves in knots listening to activists advocating the renewable energy fantasy instead of using what we have in abundance and add to that the sun and wind, but not phase everything else out. Now, our lack of political leadership is perhaps, I think, one of the biggest crises that we face in this country, on both sides of the political ledger. I'm not just talking about Labor here. I mean, let's compare that with what we saw out of America today, especially from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He held a 15-minute or so stand-up media conference in Washington, handling semi-aggressive questions, firmly, sensibly, instilling in anybody watching, including me, a real sense of, wow, how would we be if we had this bloke in charge here? Here was his response to questions about why the attack on Iran had to happen now.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Now, clearly there was planned action by Israel, and so a joint force was established. Rubio was then asked about what was coming next.
Again, I'm not going to give away the details of our tactical efforts, but the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now. Someone was screaming, how long will it take? I don't know how long it'll take. We have objectives. We will do this as long as it takes to achieve those objectives, and we will achieve those objectives. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation.
The world will be a safer place. What an outstanding performance by Rubio. He was interrupted a couple of times by the assembled media, and he said, hang on, wait, let me finish my answer. Well, the Secretary of War, can you imagine Australia creating such a department as opposed to what we have, the Defence Department? Well, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, was next, not giving away any tactics that might be used, but making it very clear that Iran needed to be hit, its missile capability destroyed, and its nuclear ambitions crushed.
We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it. Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult. It took the 47th president, a fighter who always puts America first, to finally draw the line after 47 years of Iranian belligerence. He reminded the world, as he has time and time again, being an American means something unbreakable. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you.
Again, impressive. I mean, you can add, of course, to that pair their boss Trump and his explanations that we are only at the beginning of this war here, and explaining why the US had to act. I mean,
right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it. Whatever somebody said today, they said, oh, well, the president wants to do it really quickly. After that, he'll get bored. I don't get bored. There's nothing boring about this.
a little bit more laid back, and you might not like the personal style of any of that three. And we know that Donald Trump derangement syndrome is alive and well in our very own country. But tell me of one political leader, just one, in our country that can hold a candle to that trio. You can't.